Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Did you know you can support the channel by joining? Or join my Patreon? Something to think about. Now onto the stories. This is my channel's weekly compendium, ending Monday, February 13th, 2023. Case file number 969, written by IamNetty2300. Security footage from another universe. I'm not sure how to characterize this story, since I have no clue if it was a glitch or not, or something paranormal, but you guys can judge it instead, and thanks in advance. Some background details first. A few months ago, I went to drop off my husband at the bus stop because he woke up late to go to work. So we both got ready in a rush, and when we were about to head out, he decided to bring our dog. Mind you, this is past 5 a.m. or so. Our dog is a chocolate lab mix. He's a big boy, and his name is Rio. I wasn't okay with the idea because it was a short trip, and I was moody because he disturbed my sleep. I'm not a morning person, never have been. On top of that, my husband decided to bring him in the car without the leash and collar. We always have small arguments regarding the collar situation because sometimes there are squirrels around and our dog tends to chase them around. Anyway, we headed out with the dog and no leash or collar to the bus stop. I let it be because I was not in the mood to argue about it either, and as soon as I left my husband at the bus stop, I made my way back home. When I got home, I tried to take my dog out of the car, obviously without any sort of leash, trying my luck to convince him to go inside without any issues. He usually does it without a problem, plus it was still dark and I'm sure there are no squirrels around at that time anyway. When my dog gets out of the car, he sees a skunk and runs after it. I started yelling his name to come back, and it only took him a couple of seconds to return because the skunk did his part on spraying his face with that nasty smelling oily fluid. My dog came back with one eye open and the other one closed and with excessive saliva all over his mouth. When I see this, and I sort of rushed him inside so I can bathe him and take all the stinky smell off his face, with no luck of course. And on the other hand, my husband doesn't stop calling my cell phone, but I am unable to answer because I'm busy rushing lots of water on my dog's face. I was literally in the shower with him. When I finally finished bathing him, he called again and I finally answered. And he said he's on his way back home because he saw me coming inside the house without the dog, so he assumed that our dog got lost. My husband tells me that at first he thought that I may have come back inside to grab my phone because I left it behind or something, or to get the leash for Rio, but he never saw me coming back out, so he assumed the worst. I told him after, "What are you talking about? Rio came back and I just finished bathing him, and that's the reason why I haven't answered the phone." My husband then tells me that it's not possible because in the Ring app camera there is no sign of our dog coming inside, or near the house with me. My husband has a tendency to always check the Ring app to make sure we made it home okay, by the way. Anyway, Daniel, my husband, kept arguing that it was not possible, that he was coming back to try to help me find him. Note, my husband is not a believer of anything paranormal or anything that is tied to it. He brushes off everything that is not explainable or tends to not question things like this. Anyway, I then explained to him that when Rio was making his way back inside the house with me, he was running a bit right next to me, semi ahead. Then I told him to go to work because we were okay, and so he did. Afterwards, I started to think about what my husband meant by not seeing him on the Ring app. So I went to the camera recording history in the app, and yep, Rio is seen running out, but never coming back. I came out calling his name and jogging back inside on my own as if I was by myself. I know you're probably thinking maybe a camera glitch, and that it was dark, but everything is pretty clear in the camera. And Rio was not able to rush or run fast either because he couldn't see clearly due to the skunk spraying his face. I swear my dog was next to me jogging back inside the house, but Ring does not show it. How? I felt lost in my head and thought that maybe I imagined it all, but how? I never went back outside. Rio was next and ahead of me and I could see him at that very moment. I did see him, I swear it. I also have the video and will be sharing it as well. Also, after I get inside the house, you can hear me arguing with Rio a bit in the video. I know, who argues with their dog, right? But I was just nervous, so don't judge me. I have shown the video to my friends and some family members, and they think the camera was just being glitchy. But why do I see myself then? What do you guys think? Any feedback is appreciated. Case file number 970, written by MouseyBoy666, my self-cleaning bedroom. I usually work from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m., so my sleep schedule was a bit shifted from the average person's. Last week I overslept, so I didn't have time to do anything before getting ready for work. While getting dressed, I realized my room was a mess and it needed to be picked up. I told myself I'd do it tomorrow before work. My shift goes completely normally, but when I come home, my room is completely picked up. My small trash can has been emptied, laundry has been organized, and my bed was made. The weirdest part was that my bed was made differently than how I usually make it. Pillow arrangement, etc. I go to my roommate's bedroom to see if she's still awake. She is, so I asked if she cleaned my room for me. She says no, and asks why I was asking. And I tell her that someone must have because it was messy when I left and now it's clean. She comes with me to see for herself, and my room looks exactly the way it did before I left for work, back to the mess. She asked me if I was joking, and I didn't even know what to say. She thinks I might have hallucinated it from being tired from work, but I slept a solid 10 hours and was only at work for 8. I felt perfectly fine. A very bizarre incident. Case file number 971, written by Daughter of Israel. I was stalked by a feline imposter. When I was 17 years old, I had a series of very strange encounters with what I thought at the time was a stray cat. Now I'm not so sure. So the first time I encountered this cat, it was just a normal school day. I was exiting the school bus and getting ready to walk home when my attention was drawn to a small figure moving in the distance, I'd say about 50 feet away. It was a cat, for all intents and purposes, but it was very strange in appearance. It had an extremely long, extremely skinny neck and a relatively small head in comparison to its body, which was the size of a normal cat. Initially I thought, poor thing, it must have been hurt really badly and now it's deformed. Weirdly enough though, as I was staring at it, I suddenly started to experience a fear that I can't quite explain. I couldn't figure out why exactly I was afraid, but I started to notice that this cat was staring back at me too, very intently. Now I'm aware that all cats stare, but this thing was looking at me in a way that I only know how to describe as human-like, calculating even. It felt quite sinister. This couldn't have lasted any more than 2 minutes. But I was so terrified that my heart was racing and I was shaking. I began to panic a little and started to walk towards my home, backwards, because I wanted to keep my eyes on it. Something in my head told me that it would follow me, which it did. As I got closer to our townhouse, I'd say that it was about 500 feet away from the bus stop. I just took out running. Sure enough, it ran after me. But for whatever reason, it kept a healthy distance between us and didn't fully catch up with me, which it definitely could have because it was unusually fast. Honestly, it just seemed to be toying with me. It maintained direct, unwavering eye contact with me the entire time. After I was finally able to get my key in the lock, as I was shaking so hard, I burst through the door and slammed it behind me. I took a couple of deep breaths and looked out the window next to the door. The cat was standing just outside the window, staring at me. From that point on, for about 2 weeks, this cat would randomly show up and torment me. Sometimes it would stalk me home. Other times I'd be in my room and a strange feeling would come over me. I'd get up from my bed and go to the window to see the cat staring up at me from outside. My room was on the 2nd floor of our townhouse. It would literally be outside, perched in the middle of the driveway, staring up into my room. So one weekend, my parents had gone out of town with my baby brother, and I had the place to myself. I remember this was on a Saturday. I had slept in and was just happy to have a lazy day. After I got up, brushed my teeth and face, I went back into my room and that same feeling overcame me. I went to the window and the cat was there. At this point, I was beyond disturbed, so I decided to go downstairs, because even though the cat was outside, it's like I could feel its gaze through the brick and mortar. I walked downstairs and turned the corner. The cat was now standing in the window by the front door looking at me. I quickly closed the blinds and went to the kitchen. The cat was now standing behind the glass doors that opened to the backyard, as our kitchen faced the backyard, staring at me. It took all of 10 seconds for me to walk from the front door to the kitchen. So in 10 seconds, this severely deformed-looking cat raced around the townhouse, managed to scale a security fence, just to be able to stare at me from a different vantage point. At that point, I just shrugged my shoulders and decided to lay on the couch to watch TV. I was so mentally drained and seriously thought that I might be going crazy, but I knew that I wasn't. Eventually, it just stopped showing up. I still have zero clue what this thing was. It was not a cat. Cats don't monitor people. And the worst part was that I knew I couldn't tell anyone about this, as it would sound completely psychotic. The literal only person I've ever shared this with is my mom, and that's only because she actually witnessed one of the interactions too. Case file number 972, written by KS Boy, D20, The Umbrella Connection. Background information. I have a best friend named Kat. Our song is Umbrella by Rihanna. I was at work today. I work in a gym, and we're really slow today, so I'm just chatting with Kat on Messenger. She sent me a screenshot of an article about a priest who had a near-death experience and says that he went to hell and demons were singing music by Rihanna. She said, I read this headline and automatically started singing Umbrella to myself. She sent another screenshot that mentions the actual song, Umbrella, in the article, so she thought that was a funny coincidence. I finished reading the article and I typed back, LOL. As I hit send, I see a woman walking towards my desk. I quickly set down my phone and said, how can I help you? This is where it gets weird. She looks at me and asks, can I have an umbrella? Then she kind of looks confused, shakes her head a bit, and says, jump rope. I need a jump rope. I'm stunned for a second and stood up and said, yes, of course. Let me run into the back and grab that for you. I glance outside to check the weather, and it's bright and sunny. I bring back the jump rope and hand it to her. She still looks a little dazed and says, I have no idea why I said umbrella. Weird. She then thanks me and walks back to the fitness area. I texted Kat the exchange, and we were both equally creeped out. My daughter said to post it here. What do you think happened here? Coincidence? Case file number 973, written by Wrongdoer Leading, 8029. My daughter knew I was pregnant before I did. A few years ago, when my daughter was 3, I decided to go back to school and become a nurse. My husband and I were in no way trying for a baby whatsoever. I was on birth control and we were very careful. I walked into her preschool one day to find the director and her teachers telling me congratulations with big smiles on their faces. I used to work as a preschool teacher here, so a lot of these people were close friends of mine. I asked them what they're congratulating me for, and they tell me that my daughter announced to everyone that mommy has a little sister in her tummy. I laughed it off and told them all that I was sorry to disappoint them, but that just wasn't true. My daughter and I went home and talked about it. I told her mommy didn't have a baby in her tummy, and she just kept pointing at my belly and saying, yes you do, as if I were lying to her. A few days later, I woke up to someone touching my belly. My daughter has the bottom of my shirt pulled up with her head resting on my belly while she rubs it gently and says, baby sister, what are you hiding in there? It was really sweet and I just assumed she really wanted a little sister. She had never expressed any interest in having a sibling prior to this and we never discussed it. We had the talk again and she got upset with me and told me she had seen her before and she is in there. She told me that her little sister looks different than us and has blonde hair and blue eyes with little holes in her cheeks, aka dimples. My daughter, husband, and I all have very dark hair, chocolate brown eyes, and no dimples. I talked to her about wanting a sibling and tell her that when I finish school, we will try to give her a little brother or sister. Again, she's frustrated and yelling, I already have a sister. I was expecting my period to start within the next week, like clockwork. It didn't. I took a pregnancy test and just stared at that faint positive result for what felt like forever. I was in complete shock. I was on birth control, so I immediately called my OBGYN and they saw me the next day. It was estimated that I was 4 weeks and 6 days pregnant. I gave birth to a blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl with the sweetest dimples. This experience has always blown my mind. Case file number 974, written by OK Narwhal 6221. Cross the street to reset time. Last week, I experienced a glitch in the Matrix. I was coming home from seeing my best friend who visited from another state at about 3 a.m. Let's keep in mind the fact that I wasn't drunk or off of any other substance, as I've been sober for the past 6 months. I was waiting for the light to change to cross the street. There was a McDonald's directly across the street from me, and I was looking through my phone until the light changed. I also noticed that the street was very quiet and kind of foggy, which was weird since this particular street is always active and full of people, yet at this moment it wasn't. After the light finally changed, I looked left and right to make sure no car was driving recklessly. As I was crossing the street, I tried to continue using my phone, but the screen wouldn't turn on as I repeatedly tried pressing on the side button of my iPhone to turn on to the home screen. When I finally reached across the street, or what I thought was across the street, I looked up only to notice that I was back across the street I came from. This time walking perpendicular up the block from where I intended to go. I stopped in my tracks to take in what just happened, this time hearing the wind blowing and the chatter of people that usually try to sell anyone who passes by, plant mass, and the cars honking their horn. I saw the McDonald's across the street just like before, and as I was walking back down to the corner to cross over to where I had just come from, I was kind of scared and confused as to what just happened. It had to be a glitch in the Matrix, because I know for sure I didn't imagine what just happened. Case file number 975, written by Wanderer KL. From snow, he went into the void. This was in the town I'm currently living in, northern Wisconsin. December last year, after I scrounged up some change, I went out to get a soda at my local gas station. It was like any other day. I got dressed, went down our apartment stairs, and started my usual journey to the local holiday gas station for Pepsi. I still remember all of it as clearly as ever. Just as I exited our apartment and out into the alley, a man walked past me and gave me a wave. If I remember correctly, he wore a red winter jacket with a white stripe in the middle, a gray beanie, and short gray hair underneath, denim jeans and black boots. I listened to music pretty much all day, so when I switched playlists and looked back up, the man was just gone, seemingly vanished. I stopped dead in my tracks, awestruck. I suck at explaining things, but I try. Like I said, he just straight up disappeared, literally gone like he was never there. I remember he was walking in the same direction as me, maybe a couple feet away. There was snow crumbling under his steps like anyone else. There was no car that picked him up. My immediate reaction was to take out my earbuds and listen. Nothing. Next, I checked to see if maybe he went behind the wooden fence. Nothing. The gate had a padlock and the snow from the blizzard on Christmas was there. No signs of the gate being opened and snow being pushed away. I looked for footprints in the snow. Nothing, only mine. And I knew for certain his shoe size was definitely bigger than mine. I was in pure confusion at this point. I looked across the street and the woman I saw walking with a camouflage jacket before the man walked past me was still there, making her way to wherever she was going. I walked briskly out of the alley and looked both ways. The man was still nowhere to be seen. I chucked it up to my imagination or something, joking to myself if he no-clipped into the back rooms. Once I got home, I told my mom and stepfather. Of course, they immediately joked, saying it was a time traveler or something, but they believed me since they experienced their own share of strange happenings in their lives. Even after days, a month after, there was no mention of a disappearance on my step-uncle's police scanner. Does anyone have a logical idea of what happened? Case file number 976, written by Daughter of Israel. The traffic lights that froze the world. My mom and I had just finished shopping for groceries together, and I was driving her home. As I'm driving down this busy street, the car in front of us slows down for the upcoming red light, as one does, and I do as well. Pretty standard and normal. I'm now stopped behind the car in front of me, which was the first car in the line of cars that had formed at the traffic light. I had just paused a YouTube video that was in my recommended list that was playing for my mom called Black Magic to Hack the Matrix. Between the both of us, my mama and I have experienced a number of strange things throughout our lives, and lately, I've been feeling prompted to look into what they could mean. With that being said, I've been researching everything from magic to aliens to time travel, you name it. So that's literally all my mom and I talk about every single day. We always joke that if anyone were ever to walk into any of our conversations, they'd think we were clinically insane. Anyways, when the algorithm recommended that specific video for me to watch earlier that day, I listened to a few minutes of it, but then decided to wait and play it on the ride home so that we could discuss it together. So, when we got in the car, I queued up the video and we listened to a good portion of it before I paused it in order for us to dissect something that the YouTuber was talking about. This is when the light turned green. I sat there, foot still on the brake, waiting for the car in front of me to accelerate, but they didn't. The car next to it, in the next lane over, didn't either. Weirdly enough, the cars in the 2 lanes on the opposite side of the street took off as soon as their light turned green, which synced up to the traffic light on the side of the street I was driving on. I've driven down the street on either side, or from either direction if you will, several times, and the lights always turn green at the same time. So at first I thought that maybe there was something in front of the cars that I just wasn't seeing, that was preventing them from going forward. But like I said, I was the second car in line. I could see beyond the car in front of me and the car in front of the car next to me. There was nothing blocking either of their paths. Additionally, not a single person honked to get their attention. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but road rage is off the charts in my city. People will literally curse you out for having the audacity to take a moment to look both ways while driving through an intersection, instead of immediately accelerating as soon as the light turns green. A man just recently pulled a woman from her front car at a traffic light and beat her so badly that he gave her 2 black eyes and a broken nose. I wish I was joking. So my mom and I were just sitting there, completely bewildered for what felt like forever, but couldn't have been more than maybe about 90 seconds. It just felt very eerie and weird, like a pause button had been pressed. Then, all of a sudden, at the same time, the 2 cars took off as if the light had just turned from red to green. My mom and I both looked at each other like, what the F? And the rest of the cars around us proceeded to gently accelerate as well. I say that because, like I explained, due to the insane amount of road rage here, people will do crazy things like speed up just to cut you off if you make them wait at a traffic light for what they felt was an unreasonable amount of time. But nope, it was as if everyone else also didn't notice that the light had been green for quite a bit of time. As we were now driving down the street again, I asked my mom if she thought we'd witnessed some sort of time glitch or an illusion or something. She vehemently agreed that she couldn't think of any other explanation for what had just happened. Then, I unpaused the video for us to continue listening to it, and do you know what the first sentence was that came out of the YouTuber's mouth? These were her exact words. "We live in a magical world. We live in a world full of illusions." I had literally just asked my mom if she thought we'd witnessed an illusion. Strange. Case file number 977, written by Whatfer. Free medicine. Hi everyone, this happened 4 days ago. If there's any typo, my bad. English is not my first language. I'm asthmatic, therefore I use 2 different inhalers, the ones I can only order again when there's around 2 weeks left of medication. If I were to request another one when there's more than 2 weeks left, I need to have an appointment with my doctor to explain what happened. My inhaler's on the right side of my bed, just next to my head. When new medication arrives, it stays in the medicine drawer. Mind you that I hate drawers and doors that are open with all my soul. That's close to my bedroom window. So explain how I woke up with that drawer open, because that means someone was there looking around. But to my surprise, there was a package of one of my inhalers closed, brand new. The thing is that the only one I was still using had 2 months worth of medication left. I checked on my account for medication and there wasn't any information of new nor repeated medication by any mistakes. No messages from the nurse or doctor, nobody. I'm grateful because nowadays they take forever to bring my medication, and I had a few occasions that I didn't have my main inhaler and had to literally survive with the emergency one. 2 days ago, the exact same thing happened, but this time the medication had 1 month worth of medication. I repeat the same process as before, and there's nothing to be found. Case file number 978, written by Training Passenger 8. My voice said something else. This just happened, and my fiance and I are a little freaked out. He couldn't find his phone, and I offered to call him. When he found his phone, he answered the speaker and said, "Hello?" while next to me. I answered with, "Hello," too. But when we heard my voice coming from his phone, it was me clearly saying, "Hey." We looked at each other and I ended the call. We couldn't come up with a rational explanation, which does not mean there isn't one, we just couldn't think of one. It made me feel like one of those scenes in horror movies where a character is standing in front of a mirror and the reflection doesn't match their movements. Creepy file number 77, written by Anonymous. We encountered the men in white. I spent most of my time in the woods and nature, regardless of where we moved. Over the years, I've seen some weird crap, but this experience surely takes the cake. When I was 16 years old, I was living with my mom in New Jersey, USA. My best friend and I had an experience that we both still remember vividly, and my wife wants me to share the story to see what people think we saw. My buddy and I used to cut through this farmer's field between my mom's neighborhood and our local mall, maybe a mile or so long. It rarely had crops over the years, maybe 1 year of corn in the few years of cutting through it, if I remember right. The field was barren on this day, and we were headed to the mall to hang out. We didn't notice anything unusual on the way to the mall through the field. We stayed in the mall for about an hour or two and went back through the field to get back to my mom. We didn't drink or eat anything in the mall that I remember, no drug usage or alcohol either. When we got to the tree line between the field and the mall, we saw a handful of people all dressed somewhat similar in overalls of some sort, plaid shirts, collecting things off the ground. I figured they were harmless and we knew the old guy's name who owned the field, so probably wouldn't get yelled at if our name dropped. As we made our way through the field and got closer, I remember feeling a lot of static energy. It looked like they were picking up smoking coals off the ground and throwing them in buckets. Weird, but we didn't say anything to these folks and just kinda skirted around them till we were nearing the tree line back to my mom's neighborhood. We heard a loud whooshing noise, sort of like an air compressor. We turned back, and there was a group of 6 identical white-suited men with Daft Punk-esque helmets that seemed to be shooting, silently, their weapons made no noise, at the folks picking up those things off the ground. Their sidearms looked like the guns used to spread weed killer or a paint sprayer, really long and thin. They didn't seem to notice us watching until my friend went into a panic and started freaking out. I grabbed him by his shirt and started dragging him towards the tree line, but he was in some sort of shock. I looked back as we were running, and they were all facing us, but not pursuing. My friend went home and we didn't talk to each other for about a week. Everyone we told to date has said we were mad, minus my wife and father. I will say, after the initial whoosh, we never heard another noise, not even a cricket, for the whole encounter, till we made it back across the tree line. Bonus file, written by Uncle Monster, the Faceless River Entity. This happened back in the 80s. My best friend and I were wandering around the neighborhood in the afternoon, and we came to a short bridge that went over a small creek. We looked over the rail and saw this kid crouched on a big flat stone at the edge of the creek, poking around in the water with a stick. He was wearing a red hoodie with the hood up, blue jeans, and white, high-top sneakers. I couldn't help but notice how incredibly clean his clothes and shoes looked. Well, we thought it would be funny to drop a rock in the water and splash him, seeing that he didn't know we were there. Then he just looked up at us. Didn't stand up or anything, just calmly turned his head and looked right at us. His face was pure white and perfectly smooth like an egg or something. No features at all. The fear we felt at his gaze was instant and intense. We ran like hell for about 2 blocks, and after that day, we never talked about it again. About a year later, I was hanging out with some other guys riding bikes, and another friend came running up out of breath and freaked out. Started describing the exact same faceless kid doing the exact same thing, but at a different spot along the river. I just kind of froze over, but everyone else was just making fun of him. I looked at him and just asked, "Super clean looking?" He just went silent. I wonder if anyone else has seen this thing. Case notes for file 969. Security footage from another universe. So a quick side note, because you mentioned that your husband takes the bus. Since being in the US, I've noticed a severe lack of public transportation. Back in Montreal, buses ran like every 10 minutes everywhere, and of course you could take the metro, the subway. I think New York City is pretty good on public transport. I guess it's because it was designed before cars became prevalent. Nothing against cars necessarily, it's very hard to get anywhere unless you have a car in most places. Unfortunate, I would say. I think cars make more sense for traveling outside of cities or towns, but inside towns probably should be designed more for pedestrians. That would be ideal. Better quality of life instead of all these stroads everywhere. Very ugly, if you ask me. Also, I'm very grumpy when I first wake up as well. If I wake up without at least 7 hours of sleep, and even then, if I wake up, I need like 30 minutes, take a shower, decompress, have my coffee, anything before that, and I'm not exactly safe to be around. I just realized I forgot to include Dave. He was a little upset with me, but he's okay now. We had a talk, it's all good. And also, it's been a long time since I was sprayed by a skunk. It happened back in Montreal, Terrebonne, maybe 7 years ago by this point. Nothing really worked besides one thing, laundry detergent and baking soda. If you put that in the washing machine with those two ingredients right away, then it does neutralize the oils, whatever the skunk spray is. And apparently tomato sauce can work too. I'm not sure about that. I think I heard that on Seinfeld. No, that was for body odor. And your husband, Daniel, sounds like a very protective kind of husband. It's an admirable trait. Making sure you're home safe. I would probably be similar to that. Now, for the glitch itself, I don't think it's the camera losing frames or anything. I've watched the video a few times now. And if you look at it, everything seems to be in sync and flowing normally. There was a car that passes by, no missing skipped frames there. If you look at the lamps and some of the lights, they pulsate at regular intervals. There's nothing missing, as far as I can tell. So I don't think the camera footage was corrupted or anything like that. Or did the camera not process your dog because he was too dark? I don't think so. I mean, you clearly see Rio as he gets out of the car and then runs off. So what's going on here? Did your camera footage capture a parallel reality? We know that we can perceive other realities, multiversal peering, without actually being there. Why couldn't a camera do that? I think that would be evidence, though, that it's not related to our soul. Like quantum immortality is our soul moving between universes, but this, maybe it's some kind of space-time warped anomaly. Instead of moving through space-time in our universe, it's enabling a connection for sight and sound to this parallel reality. First story I've read like this, very interesting, and with security camera footage too. Case notes are file 970, my self-cleaning bedroom. So you have a curious shift, that time slot finishing at 2 in the morning. When I was back in Montreal, I worked as a doorman, security guard, doorman, just night watchman basically for a condo unit, downtown Montreal. And I would finish at like 8 in the morning. Well, I get home at 8, I'd finish at 7. Had to take the metro home, but I love it. I'm a night owl, I really am. What can I say? But yeah, odd shift. At least you get home before there's light out. You can make something of it work, like you get home at 3 and you wake up at, 11 or 12. More normal-ish, still functional. When you wake up at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, it becomes hard to function because everything closes so damn early, especially now. You know, where are the Walmarts that are open 24/7 and all that? Everything's just closing early now. The last 3 years were used as an excuse to completely shutter down anything to do with night owls. What can you do? But my guess this would be related to, again, multiversal peering. You saw your room cleaned in a different universe, and the one you still inhabit, it was messy. Maybe in the other universe, it was cleaned by your roommate, and that would explain why it was cleaned in a way and organized where it wasn't like you cleaned it. I don't think you would be different enough to arrange your room in a different way after you clean it in a different universe, so it probably was your roommate, just not the one that you know. I'm gonna go get a snack now. Not sure what I should eat. Banana, apple, burritos. Burritos can be a snack, right? We'll go with that. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell, good stuff. Visit my Patreon if you want. 27 stories. Well, actually, no. Yeah, 27 stories from when this goes live. The latest one is about an autopsy recounting gruesome events. but it's very sad. Compelling story though, really. Case notes for file 971. I was stalked by a feline imposter. Honestly, it's not too surprising that the cat could keep up with you, if it was a cat. Cats are surprisingly agile and fast. I mean, we all know they have really quick reaction times, but no, they're just extremely fast. I'm not sure if they could outrun a dog, I wonder what their top speed is, but it's fast enough to keep up with a human. Maybe you're not Usain Bolt, but outside of that, sure. But yeah, the way you describe the cat does seem supernatural, doesn't it? Especially in its ability to know where you're going to go. Like, yeah, cats can smell a human, so maybe that's how, but it seemed too precise and too quick, right? Like scaling and going behind the townhouse so quickly in like 10 seconds for you to go to the living room to the kitchen area. That's very spooky. How you describe it looking too. I wonder, was it possessed? Can pets become possessed? I guess I don't see why not. If cats have a soul, and in fact maybe it has nothing to do with the soul. Maybe if you're possessed, it's about suppressing any soul that exists there, but maybe anything can be possessed. I mean, yeah. You have stories about dolls being possessed, not just in movies, but in creepy reality too. Whatever cat soul was inside his body was suppressed, and this was deforming it. Maybe it was even keeping it alive, but not really alive. Maybe it was dead and was just this animated body. Or maybe it was just a really lonely cat. And as you say, maybe he was abused and just wound up in this state. Very sad either way, if you ask me. I definitely do get creepy vibes from this, so I would keep my distance. Hopefully it never comes back. Case notes are file 972. The Umbrella Connection. I'm wondering, did you subconsciously hum the song? Or maybe tap your thigh to the rhythm of the song? Anything like that? Because people can pick up on it, and sometimes we'll hum along or move our bodies to the rhythm of a song or anything subconscious without even realizing it. And maybe this person was approaching you and just picked that up subconsciously as well, and that's why she said umbrella. And it is an extremely popular song, or at least it was, but it's well known, I would say. So given all of that, my guess would be along those lines, but it's not inconceivable that your mind was so attuned and thinking so strongly about this that it did impart some knowledge or at least a sensation in her mind. Can we link our minds, our souls connected like that? I think so. And it may tether along with remote viewing. It's all down to the soul. The soul is capable of more than we are consciously aware of. Sometimes we can be consciously aware of it, but if we're able to astrally project, why not be one with the soul that's projected forward? Or that part of it, anyways, because it's not the whole soul. I think it's just a small fragment of it. Like tossing out a drone to go and scout for you. Well, sort of that, but metaphysical. And in this case, I think your minds were connected, even loosely, just enough where that little fragment of your song imparted into her, and obviously she knew the song and that carried forward. I want an umbrella now, even though it's not raining. And it's definitely happened to me too. I felt like I knew something about someone else or what they were going to say, like with my mom. If I was in the kitchen making a sandwich, I knew she was going to say something and what it was going to be before she even said it. But it almost is so normal, and I think most people feel this way, that I didn't even consider it a glitch, but thinking about it, yeah. There's many cases, mostly with people I've known significantly, not just random strangers. But I guess there's a meshing, like a Wi-Fi established link that has to connect. Maybe sometimes it can connect with strangers if the signal is strong enough, boosted for some reason. Maybe depending on the environment. And comes the end of the video. You know what to do. I don't even have to tell you, right? We're mind linked right now. Just do what you know I want you to do. Case notes are file 973. My daughter knew I was pregnant before I did. Boy, this is one of the more remarkable stories I've ever narrated. I think it's fair to say that children have a special connection with the world, or maybe it's better to say they have specific attunement to the whole universe. They're able to comprehend and perceive it in ways that we can't. The information that's there is accessible. Like in this case, your daughter knew that you had another daughter in you before you did. And even what the daughter was going to look like. Having blue eyes and blonde hair, that is probably the most fascinating detail of all of this. And of course that you were on birth control, so this is almost biblical. Birth control can fail. But the whole ensemble of this, the package of this story is absolutely spectacular. And I'm very happy for all of you, including your daughter who really did want a sister. Case file number 974. Cross the street to reset time. Yeah, this sounds like a reset of your brain function. If we're in a simulation, there would be a button that they can press in the real world, where it controls a connection to our inhabited body, the soul to the body. If you just hit a certain button, you can rewind it a certain level in the buffered reality. So the button is pressed, and you are seamlessly, in your mind from your perspective, simply rewinded and still walking, but perpendicular to the road that you were trying to get to. If we live in a buffered reality, a buffered universe, then it's as simple as rewinding a movie. Now if we don't, that's where this kind of glitch is just mind-blowing on another level, and we may never know exactly. But it won't stop us from speculating, right Dave? What do you think? I think he agrees. Speculations. Whoops, that's his butt. Speculations will continue. Case notes are file 975. From snow, he went into the void. So first I would say Pepsi, really? Coke is better, and honestly the MVP S-tier soda is Dr. Pepper. It is the best. I have some Dr. Pepper right here. Dr. Pepper Zero, red and black version. Slightly sweeter than the white and red. I drink diet always, but it's good. Try it if you haven't. And yes, the back rooms. What a terrifying concept. I'm not sure if it's entirely fictional, or I believe there are people who claim to have actually been there and escaped. I don't know, it sounds more like a creepypasta to me, but just the idea that it could be real, that one minute you just wake up in the back rooms that are an infinite maze seemingly of like white and grayish, brownish, disgusting crap. You're just stuck there in this like office maze with apparently dangerous creatures inhabiting it. I don't want to go there. Kinda sounds like purgatory. Limbo. Now for the glitch, I'm wondering if he, the man that you saw, well, didn't see but believed to have vanished, from his mind, did he simply move forward in space-time? Or is it like the last glitch where he simply reset in time? His consciousness wouldn't just have reset, his entire body would have as well. Would it be from your perspective? If someone is rewound, they simply vanish from your perspective, because we don't all have to be playing the buffered reality game from the same point. It could just be watching a movie from different points in time, like skipping ahead in a video. If that's the case, a lot of vanishment could simply be alterations to the program depending on where we are in it. But if not that, it could simply just be a space-time anomaly. Not as common when they're walking, but they do happen all the time now. For him, he may just have taken a step and then taken another and be a mile or 10 miles or 100 miles away. Hell, I wonder if this happens where people literally warp from one country to another and don't have their passport or anything and they can't even get back. That would be awkward, trying to get to the embassy. Yeah, I don't know how I got here. I mean, I kinda just teleported. Maybe they'd commit him to a psych ward or something. And another triple stories down. Almost to 1,000. Getting there. It's very exciting. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. See you tomorrow. Case notes are file 976. The traffic lights that froze the world. Yeah, the story about a woman being taken from her car and beat just because of a traffic situation. I swear people go absolutely insane when behind the wheel of a car. Or any vehicle, I guess. Something like a actual possession going on. Vehicular possession. I don't know if there's an actual spirit responsible for that or just human nature. When you're behind the wheel of something so powerful, you just lose your mind. I don't know. I don't really like to drive myself. There's just something kind of crazy taking for granted the fact that you're driving around in a ton of steel going at 60 or over miles an hour. A single mistake and you kill yourself or someone else just in a flash. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. I prefer motorcycles because there's less risk to other people. You know, one thing I'm very excited about is Tesla. Well, it's not just Tesla, but they're the pioneers really for self-driving cars. I don't want it to be mandatory. If people want to drive themselves, that's cool, but for other people like myself who'd rather just be driven, that's very cool. Just punch in where you want to go, and it does all the work. Level 5 autonomous driving. You know, you can put on a movie, go to sleep, wake up, and you're at your destination. That's awesome. Actually, kind of a tangent, just real quick. Tesla is designing automatic plug-in robots. Basically, you pull up to a charging station, and there's a robotic arm that'll plug into the car automatically. So you can plug in your route, pay for the electricity in advance, and it'll self-drive the whole way and even charge itself along the way. That's pretty damn amazing. I can't wait until that's a reality. It's still probably 5 to 10 years away, but it'll get there. Anyways, moving on to the actual glitch here. What I wonder is if it's just down to perception. What was the perception of the people in the cars around you? Did they perceive the same thing, like you were stuck and not moving, whereas everyone else was just normal flow? Or they just didn't realize anything odd happened at all? In one instant it was normal, red light, and then it was green? To them there was no difference. Maybe it's just down to perception. There was some kind of anomaly that affected the people in that area, but not across the street. That traffic was flowing normally. So everyone in the area around you was affected by some sort of space-time warping that reduced the flow of time, but only from the perspective of outsiders, not within real time. The problem is there's no absolute time, which is a hard concept to grasp your head around. Even now, I don't really understand it myself, not intuitively. It doesn't really make sense. But I think the best way to phrase it is that perception is king. So there is objective reality, but how we perceive it can affect everything for us. Because of course, regardless of what objective reality is, we can only see it and feel it from our own senses, unless we devise other mechanisms to observe it, take data. Case notes are file 977, free medicine. Yeah, not too much to say on this one. I would say it's awesome that you got free medication, especially given that wherever you live, you can't get extra for whatever reason. You have to wait until you only have 2 weeks left, which seems dangerous to me. At least bump it up to a month, but I guess now you don't have to worry about that. You have a perpetual buffer of at least a couple months now. Or a month and a half or something. Very good. Happy for you on that. It does seem more directed, willed, than just random duplication event. So maybe there was some force that directed you to have extra. Maybe you'll need it in the future. Keep it on you. It's almost dinner time for me, so that's exciting. I'll have something tonight with mashed potatoes and gravy. Yeah. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. See you tomorrow. Case notes for file 978. My voice said something else. This is a tiny glitch, but quite a mind-bender, isn't it? Wonder, would this be related to a parallel universe crossover? Just information? So you're connected to a call, and we're talking to your wife, but from a different universe. And then over here, she said hello, and over there she said hey. A tiny difference, but given you're connected to different universes in a sense, that would be mind-blowing indeed. I can't really think of anything else that would affect the call that way. Because it's not like your wife had a distorted voice on the phone and you just misheard between hello and hey. That's quite a difference. I don't think there's a tech glitch that would be able to cause that, unless it was intentional, like someone trying to forge the voice of your wife, but obviously there's no reason to do that now, and no way to do it, because she called your phone. The only thing I can think of is that multiverse action is involved here. Case notes for the creepy file number 77. We encountered the men in white. So this is very strange. The field is barren, nothing's growing there, but the descriptions you give is similar to like pesticide sprayers. Like you can get crop dusters, planes that fly over, but I guess other people would just use actual humans that directly spray it on the field. But if it's barren, nothing is planted. I mean, there's no reason to use pesticides on anything. It would just waste money, right? Do you lay it beforehand on a field before you plant something? I'm not a farmer, I wouldn't know, but I don't think you do. What about the people picking up, like you said, hot coals from the ground? Wonder what that's involved. Like maybe debris from a crashed ship? And maybe what those men were spraying was to disinfect the area, or decontaminate it from radiation or something. Maybe they don't know if there was or not, but that would be my guess. These are alien recovery specialists. If a ship crashes, and I mean, it's not inconceivable, even if aliens are here and they have advanced technology, it doesn't mean they're infallible and there's never any errors. Could a ship eventually, for some reason, crash? Yeah, I would say it's unlikely, but it's certainly possible. And in those cases, I guess it depends on the arrangement they have with our governments. Do the governments actually know that aliens are here? Did they make that clear to the people in charge? Or maybe not. Maybe they don't care. And in that case, the ship has crashed, but it's not like the world will know from a single crashed ship. That's easily suppressed. And obviously, you didn't see an actual ship, so whatever was, if this is what happened, whatever was there, whatever ship or debris from a ship, maybe it was even like a satellite from an alien craft or something. and from that they were able to recover most of it before you came back through the field. I really hope one day I encounter an alien, because I don't think they're evil. If they intended us harm, we wouldn't be around to speculate. Case notes for the bonus file, the Faceless River Entity. So there was a comment from someone else in the thread that mentioned that this could be a Nopera bow, supposedly a kitsune that's disguising itself as a faceless entity, and it's usually found near rivers. Indeed, this has nothing to do with Overwatch. There's a short story about this that I read, and it's pretty fascinating. Folktale level stuff, and I want to recite it here for you. Let me know what you think about this. This tale recounts of a lazy fisherman who decided to fish in the imperial koi ponds near the Heian Kaio Palace. Despite being warned by his wife about the pond being sacred and near a graveyard, the fisherman went anyway. On his way to the pond, he is warned by another fisherman not to go there. But again, he ignores the warning. Once at the spot, he is met with a beautiful young woman who pleads with him not to fish in the pond. He ignores her, and to his horror, she wipes off her face. Rushing home to hide, he is confronted by what seems to be his wife, who chastises him for his wickedness before wiping off her facial features as well. A kind of torment into social purgatory, it sounds like. Heed the warnings, I say. And with that, the video is over. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next week.